Hello everyone, it's Scott here from Kitchen to Table. Today we're going to be making a paella, lovely chorizo, chicken and prawn. I'm just going to start off by placing the chorizo that's just been skinned and crumbled into the pan to start the fat rendering out of that and it to get nice and crispy and delicious. And then we'll talk about the other ingredients. Paella is a Spanish dish, beautiful rice dish. So we're using a lovely Calasparri rice from Spain. The rice makes a big difference, so it's really worth spending a little bit extra to get the good rice, because in the end you'll notice the difference. We've got some lovely chicken thighs, capsicum, tomatoes, some frozen peas, some anchovies and garlic, and then some beautiful chicken stock with the wonderful Herbie's Paella spice mix. Best cheat you'll ever get. Everything's in there and we're pretty much following the recipe on the back of this. Okay, so you can hear that starting to sizzle away. And that will take a few minutes just to get itself together. And after that, we'll then start with the chicken. With the anchovies, if you don't love anchovies, put them in earlier as we will do. If you really like anchovies, you can put them on direct, decorate the dish at the end of the dish. Okay, now this chorizo has rendered a lot of its fat and flavour into the pan. So we're going to use that when we start browning the chicken. All right, so I'm going to turn the heat up a bit because we're about to put a lot more into this pan. And we'll push the chorizo up to a side and we'll bring this chicken in. Now we're just browning the chicken at this stage. We're not going to cook it all the way through, so it's just going to be pretty quick in here. We'll give it a quick salt and pepper. Not too much salt because the chorizo is salty and so are the anchovies. But if you season as you go, you end up using a bit less and everything tastes a lot better. And you can see the colour on this chicken from the fat that's come out of the chorizo. Now this paella, it's got to be the easiest way to feed a crowd. This pan that we're doing is about double the recipe on Herbie's packet and comfortably get 8 to 10 people really well fed out of this one pan. And it's, as you'll see, it's an easy way to feed a big crowd. All right, it's only been a few minutes and that chicken is pretty good to go. As I said, it's not cooked through, it's just coloured and sealed on the outside because it'll go in when we put the stock back in with the rice. Last few bits coming out. There's always one. Okay, so we've still got that chorizo in the pan. It's getting even more texture to it. And so now we're going to add in the capsicum that's just been sliced. And we'll let that start off a bit. And then we're just going to add anchovies, garlic and parsley stalks. So these anchovies will just melt away in the pan as they cook in with the garlic and the capsicum. So you won't be able to taste a chunk of anchovy, but you'll have that lovely umami that they'll give to the dish as they cook away. I have turned the heat back down a little bit here so that the garlic doesn't burn. Okay, it's probably been close to 10 minutes now and the capsicum's nice and soft. The garlic's cooked, it hasn't burnt, so it's not going to go bitter, and the anchovies have pretty much disappeared. Now, I think those chorizo were from skinny pigs because they haven't released a lot of fat. So we're going to add a little bit more oil just to make sure that our rice gets a lovely coating of oil on it before we start adding the liquid. And then the rice. And then we're just going to stir that around so it gets coated in the oil that's got all those lovely flavours in it from the chorizo and the garlic and the anchovies, the capsicum and a bit from the chicken as well. So you can see the rice has changed colour a bit, and that's as it starts to get that coating from those beautiful oils. Okay, so we're just letting that rice heat up. And keep things moving, and there's a few bits and pieces that are stuck to the bottom of this pan. But as we start to add the stock and the tomatoes, that will all lift off and be absorbed. So we're going to add a can of chopped tomatoes. I'm going to give that a stir through. Okay, and now for the stock. So, the stock is warm and we've got those lovely Herbie's spice mix in there. I'm just going to ladle this in to start with. And unlike a risotto, with paella you just put everything in at once, then you let it simmer away and do its thing. And it looks like a lot of stock, but trust me, this will all disappear. There we go. Then we give this a bit of a stir and make sure we've got all those yummy crusty bits off the bottom, because they will add to the flavour. And then we're going to put the chicken back in, and then we're going to cover it, which is a bit controversial, but it does make life a lot easier. Alright, so we're going to put the chicken back in. So it wasn't cooked all the way through, it was only brown. So we're going to space it out reasonably evenly around the pan. And then we're going to give it a foil lid and just let it simmer gently. So you want to turn the heat down so it's just ticking over. So that chicken will poach and steam in there. Just trying to make sure everything's spread out, because once the lid's on, you don't stir this again. And this is where you need to be a little bit careful, because the pan's really hot. But you do want it to get a pretty good seal around the edge. Okay, we'll come back in about 20 minutes and give it a quick check. See you soon. Okay, so we're about 20 minutes in and it's time to lift the lid. And be careful of the steam. Now, most of the stock's disappeared, so it's time to sprinkle on the peas, and then we'll put the prawns in and give it another few minutes just to finish off. And then the prawns. And if you wanted mussels, you can add mussels. If rest of the seafood would come in at this time. Because it takes the shortest amount of time to cook, you don't want it to overcook. Back on with the lid for about another 5 minutes. And I think we're going to be good to go. The big trick is to get the sauerkraut, which is the crust that forms on the bottom. And it's really important and it's delicious. So you've got to try and tread that line of not burning it, but building that crust up. So once we take the foil off, we'll have a quick little look under a bit and see if it needs a little bit more heat, or if it just needs to keep going how it's going. But we'll check that when the foil comes off. All right, 5 minutes has gone by. Let's have a look and see what we've got. Beautiful. As you can see, the prawns have cooked. The peas are pretty happy. We've still got a little bit of stock here to disappear, but we're starting to get that sauerkraut to build up. So we'll give it a few more minutes, a little bit more heat, and we'll see how this goes. When you get close to forming that perfect little crusty bottom on it, you'll start to hear a few little pops. Not quite there yet, but they're not far away. All right, we're ready to serve. Got that crust starting to form on the bottom, so we just put a few lemon wedges around the side, garnish with a little bit of parsley, turn that heat off, and then it'll be time to dig in. And there we have it, our version on paella, thanks to Herbie's. Thanks to a wonderful paella stand and pan. It's really a simple way to feed lots of people, and it's become a crowd favourite round at our place. I hope you enjoy it.